Have you ever walked into a room and immediately noticed something was off? Not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way, just settle. A chair slightly moved, a tone in someone's voice that didn't match their words, a pause that lasted half a second too long. And while everyone else kept talking like nothing happened, your brain quietly whispered, "Something's not right." And maybe you brushed it off, because here's the thing most people assume. Noticing small details just means you're picky, overthinking, or maybe even too sensitive. But what if that's not the full story? What if your mind isn't overreacting, but actually seeing more than most people do? Let me show you something. Imagine two people sitting in the same cafe. Same table, same environment, same conversation happening around them. One person is focused only on their phone, occasionally glancing up. The other person, though, is picking up everything without even trying. The way the barista hesitates before calling a name, the tension between a couple at the next table, the subtle shift in lighting when clouds pass by, even the rhythm of footsteps behind them. Same world, completely different experience. If you relate to that second person, you might be highly observant. And no, this isn't just about having good eyes or being detail-oriented in a basic sense. This goes deeper, into how your brain processes reality itself. A highly observant person doesn't just see more, they process more. Your brain is constantly scanning patterns, micro-expressions, changes in tone, body language, and most of this happens subconsciously. It's like having a background app running all the time, quietly collecting data, even when you're not aware of it. Psychologists often connect this to something called heightened perceptual sensitivity. Basically, your brain is tuned to pick up signals that others filter out. While most people simplify the world to avoid overload, your mind leans into complexity. And that can feel like a superpower and a burden at the same time. Because noticing everything also means you feel more. Think about the last time someone said, "I'm fine," but you instantly knew they weren't. You didn't have proof, no evidence you could point to, just a feeling, a subtle mismatch between words and energy. That's not magic. That's your brain reading micro-cues, tiny facial movements, slight vocal shifts that happen in milliseconds. Research in psychology shows that humans can express emotions in fractions of a second, and highly observant individuals are more likely to catch those flashes. But here's where it gets complicated. When you notice things others don't, you often start questioning yourself. Am I overthinking this? Did I imagine that? Why does no one else see it? And over time, that doubt can make you second-guess your own perception. But what if your perception is actually accurate, just ahead of the curve? Highly observant people often detect patterns before they become obvious. It's like watching the beginning of a domino effect before the rest of the pieces fall. While others only react when something clearly happens, you're already sensing the buildup. That's why you might predict how conversations will go, or feel uneasy about situations that later turn out exactly how you expected. And yet, instead of trusting that instinct, many people learn to suppress it. Because being observant in a world that values speed and simplicity can feel isolating. People might tell you to stop reading into things, or just relax, as if turning off your awareness is as easy as flipping a switch. But your brain isn't designed that way. In fact, there's a fascinating connection between high observation and something called cognitive empathy, the ability to understand what others are feeling, even if they don't say it directly. It's not just emotional, it's analytical. You're constantly piecing together clues, building a mental model of what's happening beneath the surface. It's like being a quiet detective in everyday life. You notice the friend who laughs a little louder than usual when they're stressed, the colleague who suddenly becomes distant after a specific conversation, the family member who says everything is okay, but avoids eye contact for just a second too long. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's the gift. But here's the part no one talks about. It can also be exhausting, because your brain doesn't just observe, it interprets. It tries to make sense of everything. And when there's too much input, it can lead to mental overload. You replay conversations, you analyze interactions, you wonder what you missed, even when you probably didn't miss anything.
It's like having a high-resolution camera in a world that's used to blurry images. Beautiful, but intense. And sometimes that intensity makes you withdraw. You might prefer quieter environments, smaller groups, deeper conversations instead of surface-level chatter. Not because you're antisocial, but because your mind craves meaning over noise. You're not just hearing words, you're hearing intention. You're not just seeing actions, you're seeing patterns, and that changes how you move through the world. There's also an interesting link between observant people and memory. When you notice more details, you create richer mental snapshots. That's why you might remember random moments vividly, like the exact way someone looked at you during a conversation years ago, or the feeling in a room during a specific event. Your brain stores experiences with layers, and those layers shape your intuition. Now, here's something worth thinking about. Being highly observant doesn't mean you're always right. Let's be honest about that. Sometimes your brain fills in gaps that aren't there. It connects dots too quickly. It creates patterns based on past experiences that don't fully apply to the present. This is where overthinking can sneak in. So the real skill isn't just observing, it's balancing observation with interpretation, learning when to trust your instincts and when to pause and question them. That balance is what turns awareness into wisdom, because without it, observation becomes anxiety, but with it, it becomes insight. And here's the deeper, almost philosophical part. Being highly observant means you're experiencing reality in a richer, more nuanced way than most people. You're seeing the layers beneath the surface, the things that aren't immediately obvious. That can feel lonely at times, like you're watching a deeper version of the same movie everyone else is casually viewing. But it also means you have access to a kind of understanding that others don't. You can read situations, you can navigate complex social dynamics, you can sense shifts before they fully happen. That's not a weakness.
That's awareness, and awareness, when used intentionally, becomes power. Not the loud, dominant kind of power, but a quiet, grounded kind. The kind that helps you make better decisions, the kind that protects your energy, the kind that allows you to connect with people on a deeper level. So if you've ever felt like you notice too much, like your mind is always on, like you can't just switch off and be unaware like everyone else seems to, maybe that's not something you need to fix. Maybe it's something you need to understand. And once you understand it, you can learn to work with it instead of against it. You can choose when to lean into your awareness and when to step back. You can trust your perception without being controlled by it. You can turn observation into clarity instead of confusion. Because the truth is, not everyone sees what you see, and that's exactly what makes your perspective valuable. So the next time you notice something subtle, something others miss, don't rush to dismiss it. Pause. Pay attention. Ask yourself what your mind is trying to show you, because sometimes the smallest details carry the biggest truths. And if this made you reflect on your own mind even a little differently, I'd love to know, what's something you've noticed that others completely missed? If this made you see your mind a little differently, drop a comment telling me one subtle thing you notice that others usually miss. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay curious.